Hey everybody, what's going on? Can everybody hear me and see me just fine? Let me know. Happy Saturday. Put my PS5 controller away. No, I'm not playing Battletoads today. Yeah. Good to see everyone in here. Got some people that I know, and people that I don't, but we're gonna get to know each other. Probably on a minimal level because I'm gonna be focused on this. But good to see everybody in here. Yeah. Is the image a bit out of focus? Does anybody else feel this way? Because if that's the case, then I can sharpen it. Well, let me. Here, we're about to do this. 1 second. That should be better. What I do is I put the, because you got text on the microphone right here. I kind of just put it where my head's going to be and then sharpen it to that. Anyway, yeah, so did that fix it? Some people are just blurry. Like Bigfoot. Sketch Turner is in here. Good to see you, man. So let me fill you in on what I've been doing. Because this year has been a little bit light on videos. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that I am spending pretty much all my time on this. The blur's gone? It's probably my shirt. But anyway, this is something that I'm really proud of. And I really believe in the idea. So I have been spending a lot of time making it a reality. So for those of you who don't know, I know there's some people in here who have been playing the beta, and there might be some people in here that have played it over 100 times. I've heard that recently, which kind of blew my mind. But Super Beatmaker Dungeon is the name now. And it is a game, it's a tabletop game that's meant to be played in your studio. It's a game for musicians while they're making music. And it uses your actual real life studio as the game board. So it basically creates challenges and constraints, twists and turns, in order to combat your creative perfectionism and help you get out of your head and into the music. So I just showed you that big book. But when you actually get to know how to play the game, it can basically be all fit on this trifold reference, which has a lot of stuff on it, but you don't need to be carrying a book with you for the most part. So this is what we're going to use. We're going to use this. I have these like makeshift cards that I'm going to use. I just took like index cards and I just cut them out to the size of cards and wrote on them. We're using that. And we're going to use 3 dice. We're going to use a 6-sided die like you see in every game, right? And then two dice that have 10 sides. If you're not familiar with like tabletop games, there's all kinds of different dice of different shapes, and so these come together to create a percentile. So like this would be the ones and this would be the tens of a percentage, and then when you roll them together, it creates a percentage number. So that's it. These 3 dice, this reference, and then because it's important for you to log, your run as it's happening, I also have this sheet. I just call it a run log. And so I just write things down here as they happen so that way I can refer back to them. It's really important to do that in this game because the game actually remembers things that happened previously in the game. It's one of the tricks that I use to make the game feel like it's living and breathing and kind of interacting and reacting to the things that you're doing is when things do happen, you write them down here, and that way the game can reference them later, and all of a sudden you're thinking like, man, that thing that happened, I don't know, 5 tracks ago is now a problem. So that's kind of where we're at. We've been, I've been working on this quite a bit, and the game has really, if you watched the video that I did earlier this year talking about it, the game looks a lot different and plays a lot different than then, but the core idea is basically the same. It's just a lot more eloquent, and it just kind of flows better, and it's also just more engaging, in my opinion. And there's just also less things to keep track of. Somebody said, can this game be played by more than one producer at once? Yes, there's a co-op mode. So I am intentionally not including competitive in the game. That's not necessarily the spirit, but I have a co-op mode that can be played between 2, maybe 3 people, best of 2, where you go into the game together and you make something together. And I've tried that with a friend, and it works really well. But and I think there's probably some people in here that actually have played it like that, and they can share their experience. But yeah, I'm super excited about diving into this. And we're just going to play it today. I'm not going to go too heavy into the details of like every single thing that could possibly happen. And, edge cases that may not even show up. We're just going to play it. I'm going to run it, and you'll just be able to see it in action. And I will say that before I start, if you want to also get access to this game, right now it's currently in beta still. I'm still working on it. I did not anticipate the amount of work and reiteration that would be required in order to make it. I do intend on finishing it and releasing it in a physical format, probably as like a book and some cards. But for right now, as it develops, I need to be able to just change and adjust things on the fly as I need to. So it's in closed beta right now. But without any further ado, someone said, could I do a walkthrough of Super Beatmaker like as a group, and they could do a vote for the best result? You could. There's a mode that lets everyone kind of go through the same dungeon together. It's like for gatherings and stuff. It's basically from anywhere from 2 to infinity. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, that's really not my scope. If people want to create, leagues or whatever, they're more than welcome to. So, all right, let's get started. The way that you start, well, I'll explain the core concept and then we'll go from there. So, in order for us to turn music making into a game, it has to be linear. Linear composition is the name of the game. So, if you think about the way a song is made, you have, you know, a track for drums and a track for bass and a track for trumpet, or I don't know, whatever you know, you want to put in your song. Each of those are different layers. We call them tracks in the, you know, in the game, but also like in the what just people call them. And so each of these tracks is a room within this dungeon. You're going into the dungeon. The game is now called Super Beatmaker Dungeon. And so as you enter the dungeon, you go into the dungeon and you make the decision to go further and further in, things can happen. There can be, you know, all kinds of reactions that the dungeon manifests in order to make it a little bit more constrained for you, to limit your choices, or to even damage things that you've done in the past, to keep you on your toes. And the idea is to constantly get you thinking and giving you a fresh situation, so that way you can constantly be creative, not necessarily worrying about, I wonder if this song is going to represent me in its entirety. That's how everyone gets stuck. That's why you never make music or release it, because you're like, well, I could do anything, so I'm just not going to do anything. This game says, well, you can't do everything, actually, so just do something. So let's get started. I'm going to be using the MPC XL today. This, among other DAW adjacent hardware, is like the best way to play the game. I'm not drawing a hard line on, you know, what kind of studios can use this. It's more going to be just more limited studios might need to be more creative in terms of how they resolve things, because it does require you to have good MIDI editing and audio editing capabilities. So before we get started, I want to draw one of these cards. So these cards are called elixirs. And what these cards do is you just draw one at the beginning of the game, and it's kind of like your one safety valve that you get. It's different every game. So at one point in this game, I could try to pull this out and make my life easier. Chameleon Riff, ignore one track class result and declare any track type. We'll get into what that means, but that's a good one. I might want that. So let's get started. I have, we're going to start by creating a new project. And the game starts when you start making a song. There's really no other upkeep that you have to do other than getting the stuff that you need in order to play. So if you have the sheet, then you're ready to go. Name is lengthy. Super Beatmaker Dungeon. Too long. Beat game. You can call it that, Cody. So we have a new project, and you know, I have a template here where it starts off with something. Let's just say this is my first track. If I make a track, I'm entering a room. So by starting this track, this is going to be my first room. So let's just call this room 1. Look at that. We're already playing the game. Now, in this game, there's a number of things that could constrain your options. The first room I consider part of setup. And so what I have to do first is roll, which I got a 40. And then I see on the track class table what class of track I need to work with. This is like a categorization. I'm actually going to start calling it track categories in future versions. But the dungeon is essentially saying you can make this type of track. And then within that, I can make a decision on what exactly I want to do. So 40 would be a chord. So that could be any number of things. I think when I hear chord, what do I think of? Let's go with, let's just open up Fabric XL and find something. Let's do electric pianos. Nice. Let's move over here. So basically the dungeon said I have to make my first track chords, so I have to start with chords. I like this idea because everybody kind of has their own, humdrum sort of tactics that they use or in order to start a song. Sometimes someone just starts always with a sample chop or a loop. Sometimes they start with just drums. Sometimes they start with, I don't know, guitar. This kind of gets you out of that. So it's very roguelike in the sense that when you first start off, you don't know what your first thing is going to be. So I'm going to just turn on the metronome and let's go ahead and just record, I don't know, 4 bars. But I'm going to have my clip going so that way I can just keep recording as long as I want, and we'll just select a 4-bar loop that I like from that. Let's see where I want to go with this. Oh yeah, it said chords, so I have to do chords. Okay, all right. Kind of cool. And we're just going to go with that. Now, the way that this game works is it works on a loop basis. Now, there's a way in order for you to make separate sections of your track. It's called a dungeon split. Just to let you know that you can actually move outside the loop in the game at this point, which is a relatively new addition. But for right now, I just want to start with something, and we'll do that. And let's just take this down to 4 bars. And just make sure that this actually nudges back. All right. I'm like, why is that happening? Because the length isn't all the way there. So we're just gonna rock this. We're gonna go with this, and I'm gonna name this. I usually I have a template in my DAW where I've been playtesting, but I'll do this in front of you so you can see how I do this. This is just room 1, what this represents. Now, room 1 is the most lenient part of the dungeon. This is the most lenient part of the game. This is just to get you started. Everything I'm going to be doing from here on out is going to be building on top of this, and it's also going to be a little bit trickier. So now that I have that, I have to make sure that everything I want here is right the way it is. Later on, I can do small stuff. I can move notes around somewhat. I can delete notes if I want to. But The way that makes this a game is that once you move on from one room to the next, it's called finalized. That's the term. And so what that means is most of the things that you would like to change about a track afterward is now locked to you, or fixed, which is the name. So adding new material, changing the sound, changing the effect parameters, and other stuff, those would be considered things that you cannot do later on. So you want to make sure that you're happy with that stuff before you move on. This makes it so that way you're not wasting time going back to previous tracks to try to make things perfect. It's more just about living in the moment and doing it. So let's move on. I'm finalizing this room. We're going to go into the next room. And so from here on out, here's how the game plays. Let's consider room 1 to be like the entrance of the dungeon. Okay, so you can still see the light outside. It's not as oppressive. But once you enter into the second room, it's kind of like unknown territory. And the dungeon doesn't like visitors. So every single time you choose to enter the next room of the dungeon, which you can always choose to do, the dungeon will have a chance to react. And they'll react in a number of ways. Let's see what happens in room 2. 21. We're all on the track class table. That's what we did the first time. There's also the ability for them to retaliate. Now, retaliations are crazy because retaliations can actually go into previous rooms and damage what you've already done, which sometimes it works in your favor and actually gives you a good idea. Sometimes it's detrimental and you got to think your way out of it. So from here on out, the rooms have the possibility of either restricting the type of track you're going to work with in that room, or retaliating, or nothing. There's a possibility of nothing. So let's see what type of track we're going to be working with. 56. First, we have to find its class. 56 is piano keys. Okay, all right. Well, I just did the did the rows. I'll do acoustic piano on top of that. How about that? And then now we have to see the shape of this room. And the term for the game is the room mutation. Let's say that the song that you're making, the music that you're making, it's kind of a metaphor for the shape of the room that you're going through, or, its properties. It could be tall and skinny. It could be wide and vast. It could be unstable. There could be lava in the middle. Who knows? So every room from here on out, it's going to be mutated in some way. So let's see what the mutation is. And this is basically, that's metaphor for a compositional constraint that I'm going to have to consider as I compose in this room. 31. And so on this reference sheet, you have 31. Must use one sound or note only. Okay. That really limits things for me. Let's go in here, and I said it was going to be a acoustic piano. Let's update this. So room 1 had, and I'll make this close so you can see. Room 1 had electric piano. There was none of this. Room 2, acoustic piano. And I'm just going to do shorthand, one note. Okay. So I have to find one note register, and that's all I can really mess with in this room. Which is not what I normally would have done. I would have done something else. That's not an acoustic piano. Just do that, real simple. I was trying to figure out I figured why the hell it was so low. Do it again. I like the second loop better because it's a little bit softer. So we'll go with that. Make this 4 bars. So that's my one note. Now I can maybe add an effect to kind of make up for that. So let's do some sort of delay here. Sound of that. Okay, and that's really all we have to do. So in this game, if you wanted to just play the game without making music and just have it be theoretical, this game would take like 5 minutes. Okay, so the playtime is dependent heavily on how much time you take to make music. And so I've seen people run through this in 25 minutes, 20 minutes maybe, doing like a full song. I've seen people take 4 hours. And so, you know, I tried to make it as light and out of the way as possible. So that way, all of the rules and all of the things that happen are consequential to the decisions that you make in your music and not too much metagaming or, you know, fiddly things. I'm still working on that, you know. Hard to design a game that's like intuitive. That's a lot where a lot of the work is left to be done. But there we go. We have that. We have room 2. Let's go ahead and name this room 2, okay? Now, a lot of this upkeep can be diminished by having templates and that sort of thing, but this is what we're doing right now. So now I want to enter room 3. Every single time you have an opportunity to finalize a room, you have an opportunity to end the game if you want. So I could end the game right here. I don't want to, but I could. Instead, I'm going to go into room 3. Let's do that. And let's see what happens. Upon entering room 3, let's see if the dungeon reacts. This is called the dungeon roll. 5. Actually, it does nothing. That's great. I don't roll that nearly enough. And then let's see. Well, I should decide what type of track I'm going to be working with. I think I'm going to go with drums. I think I kind of want to stop hearing that metronome click. Let's see what the mutation of the room is that's going to impact the composition of these drums. That is 78. See what we got here. Once the room is finalized, the volume is fixed. Okay, so I need to make sure that when I am done with this room with the drums, that I like the volume of it because I won't be able to adjust it later. And I'm going to reflect that in the actual space of my studio. So here, where I'm saying room 3, I'm also, oh, you don't have parentheses in here? All right. I'm also going to put vol fixed. And that's just going to remind me I can't touch the volume of this. Okay. I wanted to make sure that the actual things that you have to remember in like the board state could be put physically on your studio or either on that sheet. So that way you don't have to remember a bunch of stuff. You can just see it. With that being said, I might I might have to just go ahead and Hold on, let me see if I could. Can I copy? Okay, never mind. I'm gonna have to delete this because if I'm gonna do drums, I want a drum track. Let's go ahead and. Oh man, I don't want that. Now, what kind of drums do I want? Do I want to do one-shot drums? If that's the case, I might want to split them up because the more you bunch up together your elements, the more vulnerable you become because things can get targeted. So if I have all of my tracks or all my drums on one track and that track gets, messed up, that's just not great. So I'm going to make this track just like the kick drum. And let's go in my vault here for some possible kick drums. I'm going to play the song so I can hear them with the music. You know what? I kind of like the texture of that. It's pretty cool. We're going to do, instead of full level, we're going to do half level. And we'll change a couple things about this. I do think it rings out a little bit too long, so let's go into the track edit and cut down on that a little bit. Okay, and then we're also going to put a cutoff on this, which I would consider an effect, by the way, for the purposes of the game. This metronome here. Man, not being able to retool the volume of a kick, it's kind of, at first I was like, this is going to be easy, but I'm like, man, it really just, a lot of this depends on how it's going to sit in the mix. Let's lock it in first before we start worrying about that. Actually need the metronome again. Hold on. There we go. Let's just record this. And we're gonna turn off the set level so we can do some ghost kicks. Those aren't working well for me. Maybe we need a separate room where we could do some other ghost kicks, because I'm not a big fan of that. But now that we have these sort of like set in, excuse me? Why is it doing that? What is happening here? usually I wouldn't allow for like the editing of endpoints and stuff, but for the purposes of this, I mean, this isn't reflecting what I did. I'm just gonna let this. Back to this. Now I need this kick to hit a little bit harder. I need to figure this out before I move on. Having that much of a hit, but then I shorten it, I think that should be fine. Yeah, that hits. All right, that's gonna be my kick, and we're gonna name this. Let's get rid of this because this wasn't anything, and then let's name this room 3, and then volume fixed. That way I remember that I can't adjust the volume of this kick afterward. Okay. And that's it. Let's move on. So room 3, kick, mutation, oh yeah. Volume fixed. No retaliation. You see, all of these have not filled in this or circled this. That's because we haven't run into the big bad stuff yet. All right, let's move on. This is room 4. Let's, well, I'm going to do this before I actually create the track, so that way I don't have to decide on drums or a plugin yet. Let's just see how the dungeon reacts by going into room 4. 50. That is going to decide the track class again for us. So let's see what that's going to be like. 70. FX or texture? Okay. Then I think what I'm going to do is, if I can find it, I want to do like, I don't know, like vinyl. You know, just like some vinyl texture. And I'll write that down, so that way we know what we're doing. Room 4. Vinyl texture. And before we move on, let's see what the mutation is going to be. The compositional restraint, 25. No 2 notes or slices may overlap. That's not going to be a problem here. So let's play this and let's find some vinyl crackle or something. I think I kind of remember where I could find something like this.
Right.
I really wish these were actually like titled. Oh, stop it. Kind of like the steps in the night. That's pretty sick, actually. All right, we're gonna change it to steps texture. We're gonna throw this in here. Typically, once you, you know what? I already rolled the mutation. I can't do that. Let's find some vinyl. Because in this case, it doesn't really matter, but to establish the ruling, that's what I need to do. Let's find some vinyl. There we go. I didn't even look too long. Let me actually turn that down. Jeez, man. Let's see. Whoa. Got a rhythm of its own. I'm just going to record that real quick. All right. That was a simple one. We're going to call that room 4. And Bob's your uncle. Bob is actually my uncle, though. You said it was vinyl. Yes, I did say vinyl. So I stuck to it. Okay, room 5. Now we're entering the 5th room. You see how when you get in the flow state, there's really not, much getting in the way of just moving on and going through. I like the idea of the dungeon kind of giving you track categories because it doesn't limit you entirely. It's not like you have to do this very specific thing, but it gets rid of a lot of your possibilities. And from the time that I've spent playing, that has been a huge help for me. And that was one of the biggest changes in the game, was making that, such a big part of it, which is a lot of the time you're being led on what sort of track you're going to be making next. So let's see what the dungeon decides to do with us right now. 48. We haven't hit a retaliation yet, which is actually a problem. That's actually a problem. You would think that that's lucky, but that's not. There's another part of this game where if you do not encounter a retaliation within 6 rooms, that something way worse happens. It's called a catastrophe. I should have taken a breath before I said that. It's called a catastrophe, and it is way worse than a retaliation. So I'm hoping that that room 6 is going to give me something that's actually going to hurt. Because if that's not the case, then we're gonna get real fun in here. So let's see what kind of track category this is going to be. 87. Acoustic instrument. Okay. So these things are they're intentionally general. You can really interpret them however you want. It's really just like a launch pad to your next idea to keep the flow going. Acoustic instrument. I mean, that could be anything. I could use a string. I could use, a brass instrument. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the plugin. And let's find something. I think maybe like a string would be pretty cool. Tape strings. Before I get to compose, though, I have to roll my mutation. That would be really cool if the shape of the room actually let me do that cool idea that I just had. But if not, we'll figure it out. 10. How is this going to affect my string? Must be 1 bar long. Damn it! All right. I don't like that. Okay. I need to find like a looping sort of string that is appealing while at the same time not too frustrating. I'm content with that. Let's put it that way. Could it be 1 bar long or less? No, it says it must be 1 bar long. One of those should be fine. It's literally just 1 bar of string. Come on, man. Oh, I see. Actually, and I like the idea of it being cut off for the 1. It makes it so that way it's less of a problem on your ears. Nudge the notes a little bit. That feels better. Okay, not much else we can do with that. We're gonna do, this is room 5. Man, I do not want to enter another room and get a catastrophe. That would suck. But that's the nature of the game. All right. Let's see. So let me just make sure I have this down. So string. And the mutation was 1 bar. Okay. So, see, this is the thing. No matter what happens, something is going to happen. Room 6. 75, yes. Oh, man, I was so fucking worried. Okay, cool. All right, hey, we get a mutation. All right, so the way this works is it targets a previous track. And I rolled a 75. So what it does is it goes from the most recent room that was finalized and counts backwards in terms of the ones number. So 75, 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the string, the thing that we just did, the dungeon's about to retaliate against that string. Let's see what the retaliation is. 43. Man, my luck, crazy. And this was the mutations. Retaliations are over here. 43. Remove half the notes. And it says always round up when halving. So I guess this is going to get boiled down to just one note. And I think I'm going to do this. Yeah, it just sounds right. Hello, McFly. Hold on. I'm just going to shorten this so that way we don't get any problems. I don't know why it doesn't do the first one. Whatever, man. I don't have time for this. Okay, so room 6. That was retaliation. Because it was retaliated against, that was the dungeon's move. So now I get to choose whatever track type I want, which is great. I think I want to do hi-hats. Hi-hats slash, stuff up there. I got to call it something. Hold on. Let's do hi-hats. So because that retaliation happened, we're going to write it down in the room that it affected. So string, delete half notes. Is there an A in delete? Jesus Christ. Okay. And these sheets are, I print them double-sided. Each side has the note-taking information for 5 rooms. Okay, so this would be 6. And then what do I want? Hi-hats? Let's see what the mutation for the hi-hats are. Whoops. $91. I don't like the sound of that. Must contain the same amount of notes slices as a track of your choice. Oh, okay. Well, is that what I want? Doesn't necessarily matter what I want. I gotta basically choose one of the tracks in the previous rooms, count up the amount of notes. Hold on. Something's happening here. I'm trying to figure out what the hell's happening. Not playing the thing. The electric piano. Oh, I see why. Do I see why? I'm not sure I see why. Is this a problem with like the new MPC OS? I don't know. I know that is supposed to be the way it is. Trying to get this thing to work. That should work, man. Oh, I think I know what's going on. If anybody knows how to delete like foot pedal information, please let me know. I think that is what's going on here. We get rid of this stuff just to make sure it's not triggering it. Stain. I don't know what's happening there. All right. I guess until it fixes itself, we're just without the piano. I'm just gonna keep moving on. Let's do. So 91 has to be the same amount of notes as another track. Let's see. Not the string. You know what? The Tabletop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Let's do room 6. I want it to be like busier, but I guess what we'll do here is we'll just do like that. Let's go in here and find something that we like. This was in the Migos song Versace, apparently. Let's go ahead and do that. I do miss that that piano. I wonder if I duplicate this room, whether or not that would actually make it happen. Yes. Okay, whatever. All right, so we move on. And I think I want to have it as dry as that. I think that sounds good. All right, let's move on to track 7, room 7. And we're walking in there, so the dungeon doesn't like that. Let's check this out. 41. It's going to determine what track type. You know what? I'm going to play my elixir. says ignore one track class result and declare any track type. That is right now. And so I want a bass line. Well, let's see if I can actually roll for something that allows me for a bass first. That would probably be tactical, huh? A bass. Wait. I said 27, right? Yeah. I think it was like this, and then it moved like that. What did I say? Did I say 27 or 21? What did I say? What did I say? Regardless, we already called this room 7. I forgot what I said. If anybody remembers, let me know. 41. No. It was it 41? I said 41? Chord. Then I'm playing this. I don't want to do that shit. I want a BS line. Let's do this. Something like this. Man, what is going on? All right, we're running into my first issue here because I knew I should have thinned out the Wurlitzer, man. I should have, or the Rhodes or whatever, because now I'm coming into issues here. So I think what I'm gonna do, this is one of the things that you can do, is I'm gonna lower the Rhodes in the mix. Okay, and then we're from there. Here we go. Man, I pressed that like, oh, you know what? You got to press up here. All these rules. Let's see how this room is mutated so that way we can actually see what the compositional restriction is going to be. 11. What's it going to be? Can only play on beats 1 and 3 or 2 and 4. Oh my God. All right. Nope. Oh no. Not too bad. I'm doing 1 and 4. Oh no. Actually not too bad. I normally wouldn't do that, but that's kind of funky. Let's try that. Nope. I'm wanting to I'm having to go against my instincts here. And we're just gonna rock with that. I actually kind of like that. I never would have chosen to do that, but that's kind of fire. You can, yeah, you can add effects when you want, unless the game tells you not to. Bro spent an hour making the most simple loop, too relatable. Hey, Django Bango, that's very humbling of yourself. We're gonna do room 8. Let's move on. $62. Okay, the dungeon's gonna decide my track again. What is the category? Let's check this out. 24. Sounds must have no pronounced, no, that's the mutation. Hold on. The bass. Okay. You know what? Fuck it. That's so funny, man. 59. Must be sidechain to a track of your choice. Obviously the kick. It's probably the best one. I guess what I could do is I could just do like more of a flourish sort of thing. On this one. Let me find a bass that I like first. Beat's done. If you get a second bass like that, can you do sub bass? Yeah, so the way it works is these are categories, okay? Basically, if the dungeon is saying, hey, you need to work with a certain kind of track, this is going to be one of the options. Bass is one of them. And then from there, you choose the type. Type is the specific kind of track that you're going to be making. So as long as it can fit within, you know, the idea of the category, then you're good to go. So it's never like too restricting. Now, technically, what I could do right now is I could do like a bass notes on the piano right now. Let's see what I actually want to do. Actually, might be nice. There's something. Now, you know what? I'm gonna double up on the bass. We're doing an actual second bass. kind of squelchy. Kind of cool. All right, let's see what the mutation is on this bass right here. 88. Check this out. Upon finalizing, roll a d6. On 4 to 6, delete half the notes. Who made this game, man? Come on. We're just gonna hope. I mean, I'm gonna make it so that way it can work either way. Not that last part, but I like that. Just like the little boom, boom, boom. Pretty cool. First part needs a little bit more something. It's not like hitting as hard as I want it to. Oh, I know why. Because I actually want it up here. Not what I had in mind. Maybe I just get rid of that. No, because I want if I have to delete half of them, I need it. I don't ruin it. I'll just go back down. There we go. All right, cool. That's dope. And then, upon finalizing this room, this is bullshit. I don't know why I wrote this in there. 4. I gotta delete half the notes. Okay, hold on. Wow. I actually think the better, what adds more is the first one. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, so room 7 was bass, and I chose that myself. And the mutation was on 1 and 3. And then room 8 was also bass. And mutation is I had to delete half the notes. But you know what that did? I had to delete those, but that actually gave me some ideas for a couple future tracks. This is room 8. Okay, let's move on. I will say it is interesting doing a playtest of a game that I am currently developing, where it's in, like the beta phase, and at the same time trying to make music that is compelling enough that make people want to be interested in the game itself. It's like twofold. It's like, I don't know how I'm not like nervous as hell right now. It's crazy. But I guess one of the things that I, just told myself before I got on here was, this is a play test. This is a game that's not necessarily all the way done. I'm getting close, but I'm still tweaking certain things. And I think the most important part of this is having fun. And so that's kind of the thing. All right, we're gonna, that's enough of that. We're gonna go into room 9. What's the dungeon thing of that? 100? Hold on. I did not think this was gonna happen today. Actually, you know what? I thought this was gonna happen today, and I was not prepared for it, because I was like, if this happens, then I'm gonna have to like actually remove a major mechanic of the game. But we're gonna roll with it because I want to show you how alive this place feels. So every time you enter a new room in the dungeon, a dungeon check happens. It basically tells you, this is what I've been doing the whole time. It tells you either if a retaliation is gonna happen, or if it's gonna tell you what kind of track category you're gonna run. Or nothing could happen, possibly. Or if you hit 100, you essentially become hidden to the dungeon. So you cease all dungeon checks and reset the full retaliate or the catastrophe counter for the rest of the game. So I don't have to do this anymore. So I could just basically play the rest of the game without this issue. And now all I have to think about is mutations, which is the shape of the room that gives you the compositional constraint. I just want everybody to see that I did roll a 100. A 0 is a 0, 0, 0. For those of you who don't know, is a 100. A percentile, you can't, there is no setting on these die that show a 100. But here's what I'm going to do. Am I allowed to create polls and stuff? How do you do that? Engage with your audience. Fine. Here, I'm going to ask a question. Damn, dude. Okay, don't buy this. This is like the worst thing I've ever bought. It never works. Oh my, this is the worst way to type ever. I'm throwing this out the window. Hold on. Jeez, man. Okay, so what I rolled was essentially called the jackpot, okay? So I'm gonna put a poll in I'm gonna put a poll in the chat. Now, The jackpot basically makes it so that way I don't have to roll any dungeon checks for the rest of this run. If you want me to honor it, I will continue on without that part of the game, which is what happens. I mean, it happens so little amount of the time, especially in a you know, this early. Well, I guess it's kind of late into the run, but it doesn't happen a lot of the time. So when it happens, you're like, oh man, this is awesome. So I either honor it or I don't, and I will keep rolling dungeon checks. Okay. So yes to say stop that, or no to say continue on and keep the pain going. In which I will just re-roll. I will just re-roll the dungeon check here for this room. How long is this poll going for? I guess I could end it wherever. This is substantially the no's. Hey man, the no's are getting outbeat 2-3, or nope, 3-1. I don't know how to do odds. All right, this is a sorry competition. We're ending it here. Okay, all right, from here on out, just so you can see how this goes. That's how it goes. So retaliations are out the window. The track categories are out the window. So I mean, hey, you all saw that, okay? So let's decide what I want to do here. Okay, so you know what? I disagree with you. I'm showing the game off. I have to keep going. I have to keep going with them. I'm showing the game off. I have to keep going. All right, we're gonna re-roll that. I'm not listening to popular demand, because that's not representative of how these games usually go. 56. All right, that is they are going to decide. $52, okay. Piano keys. Oh man, we have enough of those. Hold on. What do I want to do here? This is room 9. Damn. Okay, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to do like a synth. I'm going to do a synth lead, okay? That's important to like state these track types, because sometimes the game will sort of mess with these. Like say you roll something and says, you know, this target, you can no longer make tracks of this type anymore. So like you'd have to like delete this, and then you would not be able to make any more bass. It's important to properly name them. You don't want them to be generic enough where no one would be able to tell just off the words what that track sounds like. But you also don't want to be too specific, because then it wouldn't have any teeth. Like if instead of, you know, hi-hats, I put like, you know, a Dillahat 4.wave. It's like, okay, don't use any more Dillahat 4.wave. It's like, all right, I think I could get around that. But if it says no more hi-hats, I mean, that's a problem. So we're gonna do synth lead. Okay, it's pretty, you know. Let's roll for the mutation here. The synth lead, and then what's the compositional restraint? 63. Back-to-back sample chops cannot be linear. Back-to-back notes cannot be in the same octave. Okay. This is going to sound weird. Not too bad. I'm still not doing it. Hold on. This is like the worst thing I could have rolled with a lead, because like, oh man, it's the spatial relationship. Like you want it to kind of walk, or you want it to kind of like have some sort of like, you know, shape to it. And I mean, this is working, but like there's so many things that I want to do that I just can't. So does this mean 12 notes between each note, or just on a different octave based on the scale? Well, it has to an octave. So if it's in the fourth octave, then the next note cannot be in the fourth octave. But you know, a lot of this game is based on like your own interpretation. I won't be able to write these things in a way that everyone will interpret the same way. But the most important thing is that you internalize something as a restriction, right? Try some out. Kind of cool. And that honors the, oh man, why do I keep going back to this? What the hell is this anyway? Yeah, I like this. We're gonna do, you know, all right, so that varies. You know, no note can be preceded by another note in the same octave. That is honoring that mutation. And these are some of my favorite results. This is a kind of like part of the playtesting is like I want to maximize the results and the combinations of like track types and mutations that constantly give the musical result of something that you normally wouldn't be doing. Sometimes it's going to be done through destruction, where you hollow out the song. That way there's more space for you to work. Sometimes it's going to be with, you know, compositional limitations that anyone can understand. You know, I wrote this game to be theory agnostic, meaning that you don't need to understand music theory on like an academic level in order to play, which has created a lot of, you know, a lot of like design issues. It just makes it a lot harder to be able to include stuff. But I like where this is at right now. It just needs a little bit more fine tuning. The people who are playing right now, and like I said, you know, the beta is available through the Patreon or the YouTube memberships, and members have been playing this game. Some people are probably here who have played it dozens, if not hundreds of times at this point. I'm blown away by the response from the my community in terms of like the mass adoption of it and the intensity of adoption from people, because I haven't really nailed down the, you know, I guess the approach of how to teach it. And so a lot of the stuff I'm doing right now is trying to make it so that way it's easy to understand. And once you kind of understand the game, once you get your head around the idea that like your studio could be a game board, like it's a board game, but your studio is the board. Once you get your head around that, it's a very simple game. There's each time you want to create a track on your song, there's just a couple procedures you have to do, and each of those things are going to affect how you make something, what you make, you know, how the music you made before gets affected, etc. And so that's really what I'm focused on right now, and made a lot of headway in that in the last few months. Right now, I am looking for some sort of like layout designer that has experience with tabletop games. That way I can get the book formatted into something that like is going to be, you know, legible for people. Also, I want an illustrator. I want to get like a good illustrator to do some illustrations for the game, not too much, but make it kind of look like, you know, like those old, you know, D&D magazines from like the 70s or 80s, where it's like, you know, basically pen and ink illustrations, like scribbly sort of thing. Anyway, Synth Lee, this is room 9. The mutation was no note back to back, same octave. You don't have to like word for word write these things down. You just need to know exactly how it affected what you made, so you can go back to it. Also, something that I suggest for people who are playing this is, you know, they could either do it here, or they could do it, you know, you could keep a notes app and do this stuff. And then when you make this song and you export it as an MP3 or a FLAC file, because WAV files don't have metadata, you can go into the thing and you can actually, you know, copy and paste your log as part of like the information or like the lyrics of the metadata of the song. So that way you can go back in here and you can sort of see how the game affected what you're doing, right? But I'm kind of going off on a tangent here. We're done with room 9. Let's move on to the next one. I'm just gonna name this room 9. Now, I like that lead. That lead's pretty cool. Let's move on to the next room. This is room 10. And let's just see how this plays out. 32. Man, this has just been a this has just been a game of no retaliations. There was one that kept us. This is like the luckiest possible run. And that was the track class table. So let's see what it's going to tell us what to do. 33. I'm sorry, 73. ARP sequence. So we need to do like an arpeggiator. And I think that's fine. Let's bring something in here. That's cool. I like that. Cool, I'm gonna do that. That is if the mutation doesn't mess with me. Let's see. 38. Every note must repeat at least once before another may be played. Okay, not. I'm just gonna read, because it's an ARP, I'm just gonna read that as like the note information, the actual key being played. So I'm gonna have to, let's figure something out. I got that. Just had to adjust a little bit. Cool. One and done. You see, each note has to repeat at least once before it moves on to the next note. Okay, cool. I'm cool with that. That's room 10. Let me get another sheet. So one thing, and I'll show this off right now, one thing that you can do, because you're just like, you might be sitting here like, this kind of just is like a boring ass loop. How do you make it like 2 boring ass loops? So the way that you would do that is called a dungeon split. And so if I go in here, the matrix, into the matrix. Let me see if I can remember how to do this. I think it's just this. There's probably a smarter way to do this, but I'm not about doing it smart. I'm about doing it now. All right, go in here. So this is 4 bars, right? If I want, I can do what's called a dungeon split. So basically what this does is this splits the dungeon in 2. And you would think that this would create twice the amount of, rules overhead and twice the amount of things you got to worry about. No, the way this works is you literally just create a B section for your song. And so all shared properties like the channels and the sound sources and the rooms and all of that, they affect both section A and section B. And so this is a way to sort of create, sort of 2 parts of your song if you want to incorporate them into your arrangement at the very end. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do duplicate. Okay. And then we'll duplicate from there. And we'll just go in here. I just want to create a clear separation between these 2 sections, and we're just going to cut that. Okay, so this is section B. You can do this at the end of any finalization of a room. We just finalized room 10. And so we can sort of recompose anything that we want, keeping in mind the mutations that we have written down. So we can't ignore any of the things that made me make the decisions that I did make. But what we can do is we can, sort of reimagine what we could do with those limitations. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into where these chords are. I'm going to delete these. This is my least favorite part of working on MPC, which is the editing on the touch screen. Maybe if you don't have like Sasquatch hands, maybe it's like easier. I think for now, what I want to do is I kind of want to mute a lot of what's going on so I can recompose it. I'm gonna keep that piano the way where it is, and that's sort of gonna be our glue between sections. Okay, and this is before moving on to the next room. We could, So now that we're here, let's try to do something else with the chords. do that. That's the second. This is gonna be the backbone of the second part. I'm gonna do this bass line over again. But here's the thing, because you know, I have to honor the mutation that came before it. It still has to be either on the 1 and the 3 or the 2 and 4. So I'm gonna still honor that. Let's run that. I can't even do that, man. Hold on, I gotta do the 1 and the 3. Hold on. Okay. And right now, if anyone's jumping in, I'm creating the B section right now before we move on. I'm actually gonna go back here and get rid of this last note. Don't need it. We have the second bass track, we could do some cool stuff. Like that. Can't be too meandering. Want to keep it 4 bars. just gonna mess around with a little bit of the timing here. Move on. Still gotta compose this part with the same mutation, which is cannot be any notes that are in the same octave back to back. Cool. And this art right here, I'm actually not going to have this in the B section. I think I'm just going to clear that. And you don't have to have things present in both sections. They can just be in one. So now we have two sections here. We have this. And we have this. Whoops. Okay. And so now when we compose between rooms, when we go to the next room, we have the opportunity to either compose in section A, section B, or both. Okay. But when you create a room and you create a track and you're composing, it has to affect or has to musically impact one of the two sections. So that is dungeon split. And dungeon split obviously slows the game down. If at some point you're like, I need to create an alternative version of this track so I have like more to play with whenever it comes to arranging, you do basically stop the game and then you recompose all the rooms you want to with the mutations that guided the composition in the first place. But that's the way that you can sort of expand your idea. That was one of the biggest criticisms early versions is like, well, what if I wanted to have something more than a loop? And so when you're actually finished with the game, which honestly I could be finished right now if I didn't want to keep going, is you have three options of how you can end the game, and they're all different. One is you could save some of the parts as samples or as inspiration for further runs or whatever. The other one is you can use the rules of the dungeon in order to arrange your track, and so that way it stays within the game. Or you could just stop playing. Let's say I have this stuff and I'm like, man, I really want to flesh this out to be something, but I don't want to play within the limitations of the game anymore. Guess what? You can just stop. And there's like, you're not cheating. Like there's like a mechanism in the game that's like, there's an ending called the exit. You could literally just take the exit at any time. and be free to do with this music whatever you want. And that's not a lesser way to play. That's I intended that experience. I intended that possibility. So that way you never felt like, the game was going to, hinder what you ended up doing. The whole concept of this game is so that way, you can get out of your head and you can just start working. Like somebody said in the chat earlier, I forget who it was that they, even when they didn't have to, do you no longer have access if you're only subscribed to YouTube? No, if you're YouTube channel members, go to the community posts and it's right there. Also, all YouTube channel members have access to the Discord that's attached to all of this stuff. So, that's also available. But if you don't want to join the Discord, it's also there in the community post for YouTube members. It's right there. That's kind of the idea of the game, is to, make it so that way you're never really sitting here with like blank canvas syndrome. Somebody, like I said, somebody earlier, I forget who it was, but they said that even when they did roll a jackpot and they didn't have to, roll for mutation or retaliations anymore, or for track types, they still did, which I think goes to show, just how much the game helps in like pushing forward, the idea, or like the momentum of a studio session. I said, can you use this on an already started beat? Would it work? Yes, but only if you use that beat as like a resampled track. So if you wanted to like, resample the thing that you already started as its own, just like single track, you could start with that as your first room and then move on. But it's really not meant to like incorporate things that have already been made. It's not built for that. But, one of the endings in the game is to take something that you made in here. Basically, it's called the altar. You basically, you basically like cut up the song however you want, and then save that. But then you can use that as a starting point for a future run. I imagine it would take an absolute ton of work, but a variant multiplayer character option with set skills. You know what? One of the first ideas, or one of the first things that I gutted from the game was characters, or classes, like character classes, because I didn't want to fragment the experience to the point where, and all of the ideas, all the cool ideas I had for characters and stuff, ended up just becoming part of the game. But I will say that I'm currently working on an adventures module. This would probably be an expansion that would be released later. But basically, it's a map. You just take a piece of paper, you roll some dice on it, and then it creates locations for you to visit. Each one would be a run, and then you basically be able to put together like a project by going through, and there'd be quests and scenarios and all kinds of stuff. But that's a lot more work, so I'm working on getting this out first before I put a lot of time into that. However, there is a co-op mode. I think I said it earlier, but in case you weren't here, there's a co-op mode in the game right now that lets you enter the dungeon with a friend or two friends. And you can make songs together that way if that's what you want. There's also a mode that lets you basically pre-plan out or pre-dictate a dungeon that then you give to a lot of people, like on a message board or whatever. And you guys can all go through the same dungeon, albeit with certain randomization, just because it doesn't work without some randomization. But that way everybody kind of has the same structure of run. that's kind of like if you guys want to do like, you know, Discord challenges or whatever. But the co-op mode is, you know, that is strictly like 2 or 3 people and you're all working together to create one thing. You know what? From here, what we're going to do is we're actually going to end the run. And I'll show you how we do that. So in the book, there's 3 pages for 3 different endings. What we're going to do is we're going to do the the archive ending. And this lets us, you know, with our limitations and the things that we actually experienced in the dungeon, allow us to, what do you call it? Arrange. So this is, right now we have section A and section B. So we're gonna duplicate section A first. Not what I wanted to do. And let's duplicate this a couple of times. So that way we just have some runway here. Now let me show you how you can arrange within the game's rules. You can sort of like, unless the game states otherwise, like there's some mutations and retaliations that say this has to be present in the entire arrangement, or, you know, this particular track cannot be present at the same time as this other track. I didn't happen to roll any of those. So, because I only rolled 1 retaliation. This was actually, as far as this game goes, this was actually pretty uneventful. So if you found this to be interesting, there is so much here, man. There's actually bosses. So let me just roll for this right now, so the next time I play, I can just know. A 2. So no. But basically, at the very end of the game, you roll this D10, and so either your next run will be a boss run or a boon run. And so if it's a boss run, there's like a third party in the dungeon that makes it more difficult for you. And the boon would be the opposite. And there's 6 of each. There's also like all kinds of stuff. There's something called room redemption, which I would not hit that right now, because I only have, basically you tally up the amount of retaliations that you encountered and you roll this D6. Oh, that's funny, man. Basically what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to, you're supposed to tally up the amount of retaliations that you encountered, and then that number, you roll a D6 against that number, and if the number is on the D6 is equal to or less than that number, then you get to do this powerful ass move, which I'm not going to do. Well, I mean, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm happy with the way everything is. What it allows you to do is it allows you to go into a previous room that's been finalized and it change either the effects and the effect parameters, or the note information. That's like your Hail Mary, essentially. You could do that at the end of every game. That wasn't supposed to happen. Do you guys see how much the dice love me today? I rolled a 100, which I ignored because I wanted to show you more of the game. And then I rolled that. What a game, man. I feel like the old guy at Caddyshack, where he plays like the game of his life, and then he gets struck by lightning. Oh, let's not let the second part of that happen. When it comes to arranging, you can sculpt out the track in terms of how you want things to proceed and progress. Let me just make some more space here. We're gonna just duplicate this just so I have more to work with. We're gonna carve our song out of this. All right. I think Well, I know I don't want this at the beginning, so we're just going to record over that. Let me get rid of this, the count in. Where's the count in? Oh, it's in the main. I forget where it is. Anyway, we're just gonna we're gonna overwrite some of the stuff so that way. I like how minimal the drums are for this. I was trying to go. See, it's funny is like I can think of this, I can look at this now and be like, this is the sort of like track I intended to make today. But no, I mean, if you were here, you saw me having to make concessions and changes to like what I wanted to do to appease this thing. And, what the game is doing is it's kind of like, it's keeping you on your back foot. Sometimes it's kind of ruthless, and sometimes it's like, oh man, this game like doesn't want me to make music at all. I've kind of like rebalanced it so that way it doesn't happen nearly as much. It's important to have that sometimes though, so that way you're afraid. But yeah, it's just like you'd be surprised the small amount of things that are required in order for you to sort of just go off on your way. And what it teaches you to do is it teaches you to improvise and to be open about music being a conversation and making music as a conversation between you and your environment, or you and the music, like listening as much as you are, or listening more than you are trying to like assert your voice in what you're doing. And the more you give in, the more you give up that control, the better the game feels. And inadvertently or intentionally, the better making music feels. And this is something I've been trying to teach people and trying to show people for years now, and on YouTube. And I just don't know how many times I can keep making, videos about, the relationship that people could have with music. That's not saying I'm not making videos. Like I love making videos, but the ones where I'm like trying to tell people, letting go is actually, you kind of like, you attune yourself to the reality of things, which is you are kind of like a passerby, and the music itself is the constant. And like how the best way for you to be able to help in music being created is to listen to it and then adjust based on your listening. This game teaches you that through practical application. There's only so many times you could hear somebody else talk about the proper principles of music production, or the mindset. I mean, that's not to say that's not valuable, but at some point you eventually have to do it yourself. And so, I made this game so that way anybody could have that experience. And it starts off uncomfortable, but then it comes to the point where, you accept it. And so, I learned that myself too. When I first started playing this myself, I was feeling a little bit, I mean, again, the first build of this was really ruthless. But I think making this game and also playtesting it so much, because I'm trying to find a good balance of it, that has really opened me up to the concept of just like letting go and sort of just like, meeting each limitation or each challenge, each setback as an opportunity to sort of just like think about it differently. And when you do that, when you become accustomed to that, you become so much better of a musician and so much better of a producer, because you're listening more than anything, because the game itself is saying, well, what you want to do isn't necessarily the most important thing. So what can you do? Right? And I think that's the question that we should all ask is, in our music is what can we do? Because what you want to do isn't necessarily the most important thing, because what you want may not be what the music needs. I don't want to get too like in the woods here. I think I already did that, but that's kind of the intention. It's just so much easier to do that with a game like this than it is for me to just keep repeating that over and over again, or getting, super like abstract. You know what I mean? Like if I can convey that in a practice that people can actually apply, I think that's way better. But if you notice the music I made today, it's a result of all of my reactions to the things that it was telling me to do or not do. And I ended up liking all of those things, and I claimed authorship over those things. And like, if I listen to the song, I'm like, yeah, I made that. Like, I like that. But it's easy to forget how much of the game affected and impacted my choices. Anyway, you composed for the game too. Well, I made the game, but it's it's a tabletop game. But I've definitely done a lot of playtesting and making music through the system and finding out what works, what doesn't work, what I need to keep, that sort of thing, what I need to get rid of. Let's go back here. I'm gonna. We're gonna get rid of a couple other things at the beginning of this intro. What format would you like if we send our game sheets and comments? In the Discord, there's a whole channel called Super Beatmaker where people have been posting their logs and also, their comments, and all that is super helpful, because like what might be helpful for me in the way that it's phrased for me may not help the next person, or maybe one particular rule isn't as clear for others as it is for me. So like hearing other people's opinions on how it's played, how it's portrayed, and how it's organized, that really helps me sort out some of the remaining jagged edges of the system while I continue to hone it. That being said, I'm really excited with where the game is at right now. It's been through a lot of work, a lot of iteration. Those who have been playing different versions know exactly how much it's changed. There used to be a whole system called power-ups that I think I showed in the, in the video when I first put a video out on this early in the year. I just completely got rid of it because I was like, this is actually not helping the music making process. This is just like meta gaming. You know what I mean? So it's been through a lot of different changes, and I think where we're at is pretty good. It's mostly just like cleaning it up, making sure it is the strongest version it can be before I start working with people to turning it into an actual product, I'm not hearing my string. There you go. think right here I'm gonna need to get rid of this. Right here. Let's hear it go into the B section. Woo. Fire. I like that. I like it pretty much. And I wouldn't have made that without the game. I'm pretty happy with that. Yeah. Someone said, I like the colon in the name. Dungeon makes me think there could be other worlds. I won't confirm or deny, but this is a hint right here. Right here. Yeah, I'm happy with this. This is how I'm just gonna let it exist like this. The B section was made because of the the dungeon split. And yeah, I like the way that turned out. 10 rooms, pretty uneventful game, honestly. I mean, there wasn't as much damage as there normally is. It's a 30% likelihood that each room will trigger retaliation. So if it's 10 rooms, I should have had 2 more retaliations. I had ridiculous luck today. But, sometimes the retaliations, which actually are damage, that could at times actually give you better ideas than you normally would come up with, because you're like, well, now I can't use that, or like, now this is gone, or now this is weird. How do I make up for that? And then some of the best ideas that I've had playtesting this, like in terms of making the music, have come from me trying to make up for things that alter what I wanted to do. Anyway, someone said if this game could be turned into a VST plugin, that would be awesome. I've got that. I've gotten that a lot, and I'm pretty clear when I say that's not what I want to do. I'm of the mind that I think that what something isn't is as important as what it is. And what this isn't is something that you put to the side and have it be integrated into whatever you're doing. Playing this is an event, and it needs to feel alive. And so the tactile nature of the game is a huge part of it. Because, yeah, your studio is the game board, but it's also where you make the music. I think that thematically there needs to be components that do not exist within a regular studio in order to represent the alien nature of this and what it has on your music. Then creating a VST and putting it to the side. I think is it kind of like undermines the whole thing to me. Anyway, how would you even do that? That's the other thing is like it would be so easy for that to go awry. I've heard from people. I've had so many like people approach me with different ideas of this because, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but like this is literally the first product of its kind. Like there are predecessors. You know, there's like it does share DNA with prompt machines and like oblique strategies and the compositional games that from like the classical period. But this is the first actual game of its kind that has like a dramatic arc that remembers what you do, that actually uses the state of your music as a risky asset to actually create stakes and to create like an emotional appeal. And it's the big problem isn't going to be making it, because this has been hard, but by far it's going to be much more difficult trying to market this and trying to actually get people to understand what it is. So that's kind of what another thing of what I'm working on right now. I'm really trying to nail down how to even explain it to people, because I can't always be there to let them know it's like this, and this. It's kind of an alien idea if you don't know what it is. If I'm not there to show you, making the jump can be a little bit weird. So that's another part, which is just like market positioning. I have like I still got to figure that out. But anyway, that is that's Super Beatmaker. That's just a run of Super Beatmaker. This could have, look at this. This could have played out a number of different ways. In fact, just on this one sheet of paper and the possibilities of track type decisions that you can make for each track, there are more, not even counting the different music that people make with the constraints and with the events, just the different possibilities of a 10-room run exceed the amount that could reasonably ever be experienced in a lifetime by the entirety of humanity. There's like trillions and trillions and trillions of possibilities on how a run could go in here, to the point where there's even something called rare mutations that only trigger once in 600 times. And there's a whole table for that. There's like 30 different results for a 1 in 600 possibility. I worked really hard to make sure that you could play this for years and never see everything and never experience everything. It's always going to surprise you. And that's also something that I'm really trying to hone in on and fix and make sure that it doesn't get, too wild. But anyway, that's the game. I had a blast hanging out with you and playing it. I'm probably going to do this a little bit more often on the channel, so that way people can just get used to the idea and seeing it and seeing how the different ways that it can actually affect your music. And it'll just be, the with the intent of having fun. But I'm hoping you had fun. I had fun. And let's all have fun. If you want to play the beta of this game the way that it is right now, the way that I'm playing it, it is available to Patreon members and YouTube channel members. YouTube channel members are like, I don't know, $4 or something. Patreon members are a start at $3. So pick your poison, I guess. But I really appreciate everybody being here. I'm gonna go and try to figure out what I'm gonna make for dinner. Maybe I'll grill. Maybe I'll grill something. Tell you what I'm not gonna do is I'm not gonna get any of those frozen blueberries. I knew I was really protecting my health when I didn't want to eat fruits. Make a cooking game. Yeah. What I'd like to see is I'd like to see more versions of this in different formats. Like if somebody wants to make, well, not my game, don't do that. But like, I would like to see people gamify other mediums, like gamify painting or filmmaking or, there's, I guess what I'm trying to say is there's ways to do it. Before I thought of this game, before I thought of the system, I for years I was like, I wonder if this could be done. And then I figured it out. And now it exists. So I would like to see this happen for other mediums. I think you could make games for anything if you really think about it hard enough. But yeah, I'm really excited with where it's at right now and where it's gonna go, and I can't wait to show you all how it ends up. Anyway, that's it for me. Hope everybody is chill, everybody's doing all right, and that you have a good rest of your day. Peace.